Welcome to this week's webisode of The Better Half. I'm Kidder D. St. Aubin, and this is not Katie Harley, it is Vince Marotta, and we're going to take a look back at what's been going on this week, and we're up at Cards Camp, so it's always a fun little treat. Got the nice banner behind us, ready to go.
Yeah, they let us out of the newsroom this week.
Yeah, it is 79 degrees, so we're not complaining.
Exactly, and since we're here, Kinder, we might as well start with the big question with the Cardinals. It remains, as they head into their third preseason game, who is going to be the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals? Neither John Skelton nor Kevin Cobb has taken the reins of this offense right now, and I think the panic level is growing a little bit.
Yeah, and John Skelton said, you know what, no one's pressing the panic button yet, but I don't know if he's being 100% honest. I mean, we also know that's kind of Skelton's demeanor. He doesn't seem to really press the panic button when he's in the pocket either, unlike Kevin Cobb, who doesn't like to stay in the pocket. That's part of his biggest challenge. So it's going to be interesting to see in these last two preseason games, and thank goodness they have an extra preseason game to try to determine. I mean, I originally thought it was Cobb's job to lose, but now I'm just not so sure. It sounds like so many reports are saying this locker room does not have Kevin Cobb on his side. So it'll be interesting. Now I'm kind of thinking it's Skelton's job to lose.
Panic is a strong word when you talk about hitting the panic button. I'm not sure that's happening yet, but we've both been out of practice. And when the incompletions and the mental mistakes continue to mount for both quarterbacks, you kind of feel a tension level rise, not only with the media, but also with the coaching staff. When you read body language from Ken Wisenhunt and his staff, there's a problem here, and I think a lot of people are becoming more and more familiar that there is a problem. Darren College said earlier this week, they just want this competition to be over. They want to know who they're blocking for on the offensive line and get some fluidity with this offense, and it's just not happening right now.
I think Darren College absolutely said what everyone was thinking. They want this thing to be over sooner rather than later, get that chemistry going, and Fitz's body language, to me, tells a lot as well. But that's not the only quarterback battle we have going on.
No. Valley of the Sun is like the capital of quarterback controversies and competitions because at Arizona State, new head coach Todd Graham, as they get closer to their season opener August 30th against NAU, still looking for a starting signal caller. And they have got a three-headed quarterback race. Taylor Kelly right now, who was clearly the number 3 quarterback coming out of the spring, is the number 1 guy right now as the Sun Devils start Camp Tonazona. But there's been no delineation on who's going to get playing time, and it still hasn't even been narrowed down to 2.
Well, I'm just wondering if Graham is maybe taking a page out of Wisenhunt's book as far as just throwing it out there and saying it's a competition to try to get the best out of those 3 quarterbacks. But I think that can backfire again, much like the Cardinals are dealing with, the Sun Devils as well. You know, you have to develop that chemistry. And especially with the new head coach and other new parts of that coaching staff. So I think that it'd be important to just decide, name a guy, and then say it's his job to lose, so at least everyone can have something that they know that they're working with. But like you said earlier when we were talking before the show, they might use all 3 this year, which I think could be really tricky for that offensive line.
Well, that was the news earlier this week. Todd Graham says Kelly's the guy right now. If we had to play, I'm not naming him as the starter, but Michael Eubank will be used in certain packages. Mike Bercovici on the outside looking in, but he's starting to pick up his play a little bit. It's harder to gauge, too, because the media can't watch all of ASU practice. So with them at Camp Tonazona, there'll be a lot more evaluation going on, and a lot more will be known following this weekend at Camp Tonazona.
When I was bummed when I found that out, that was a rule, because I was really planning on tweeting out every single one of their plays. I really wanted to ruin it for Todd Graham. But and we should note that it is Wednesday when we're actually taping this, so we did have the breaking news today as far as switching gears and going over to baseball with Melky Cabrera getting the 50-game suspension for the Giants. I don't know. Did you see this one coming? Do you think it fits? And the other question is, does baseball need to change the way they handle suspensions and appeals?
Well, this came out of left field. No pun intended, but I guess I'll take credit for it. Melky Cabrera has been on fire the last 2 seasons. Last year in Kansas City, this year with the Giants, All-Star Game MVP. He, along with Buster Posey, are really
Jason Kubel. Maybe should be retroactively put into the All-Star Game.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But Posey and Cabrera were really the only 2 consistent offensive threats that the Giants have. Giants are tied for first place as we tape this with the Los Angeles Dodgers. This has huge ramifications in the NL West because he's done for the regular season. He's going to miss 45 games. If the Giants somehow hold on to a postseason spot, he'll miss the first 5 games. Otherwise, that'll carry over to next year. But he didn't even deny it. He said, yeah, I'm using this stuff. Sorry, I got caught. I let everybody down. Let's move on. But this is going to have a big effect on the National League West. As far as baseball goes, it's just one of those things. I don't think they'll ever get rid of performance-enhancing drugs. There's always going to be advances in the cheaters are always ahead of the police,
yes,
if you will, by a
exactly.
couple steps, and I
Yep.
think that was the case here. But baseball, another black eye, really, because this is one of the best offensive players in baseball right now.
Yep, and I personally do think that something needs to change the way the appeal process is handled. I don't know what it is right now. I don't think it's cut and dry. I don't think it's black and white saying, hey, let's take away games from their standings once this guy finds out that he was cheating or maybe he loses his appeal. But I also think that it's not fair that if he is allowed to play while he's appealing, that he helps his team into this divisional race. And then you take them out when they've maybe already clinched it. So there's something that needs to be done here. I don't know what it is exactly. It's kind of like trying to fix the BCS.
Yeah.
Good
luck.
Good luck with that. It's not going to happen overnight. But as we said, this has a lot to do with the race and a lot to do with the Diamondbacks, who are 5.5 out as we tape this today.
Yeah, and I think it definitely affects the Giants. I would say that they're no longer the favorites to win the division. As far as the Diamondbacks, how they factor into it, it certainly helps because they've got games with the Giants remaining on their schedule. And obviously their offense takes a hit. But I'm not so convinced that the Diamondbacks can take care of their own business against other teams. They've been so inconsistent this year.
Consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, they'll go on a run, they'll win 4 or 5, and then they'll just go in the tank again. And,
Yep.
and as we tape, they're 500. They're a 500 ball club. So I think it's a little boost in the arm for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough to carry them over the top.
Well, maybe the Diamondbacks could sign Chad Johnson because I heard he's looking for a job, and clearly maybe the football thing isn't working out as we.
Hey, he can hit.
He can.
Sorry. That was worse than the pun.
That was bad. That was bad. We're gonna stay away from that one. But as we know, Chad Johnson getting cut from the Dolphins after he was arrested on charges of domestic violence, supposedly headbutting his wife, I believe, of like 41 days, somewhere in that area, and maybe trying to find a different job in football. Do you think someone's gonna pick him up?
I don't know. I think the appeal of Chad Johnson was, and everybody knows he's a diva and a weirdo, and he loves to have the attention on him at all times. The one thing he had going for him, two things he had going for them. He had been productive in his career up until last year in New England, and he had never been in trouble with the law. He wasn't very productive last year. It was a lost season with the Patriots where everybody thought that would be the key to restarting his career. It didn't happen, and now he's been in trouble with the law. So I think the Miami Dolphins did the right thing. They acted swiftly within 24 hours of the arrest. They cut Chad Johnson. It's been chronicled now on Hard Knocks. It was a pretty uncomfortable situation for their head coach, Joe Philbin. But every time I'm ready to count somebody out, Kendra, somebody always steps in and gives these guys another chance. And maybe somebody out there thinks that Chad Johnson can help them. I tend to think differently.
One, I think, and a lot of coaches out there think that they can rehab a player in the sense of whether it's Randy Moss or whether it's Terrell Owens or whoever it is. They think, oh, he was trouble there, but he'll come to my program and I'll be able to figure it out. And it just doesn't always happen. So I honestly think that someone will take a chance on Chad Johnson. I don't know that he'll stay with said team throughout the season, but I do think that maybe the only time or the way Chad Johnson is completely out of football is when he decides himself that he doesn't want to play football anymore. Just because you're right, I think these teams are always going to try to take chances, and they'll always think that there's something left in the tank for these guys that physically look like they can still perform.
Yeah, and he may think he can play, and he probably still can play a little bit, but teams can go out and find a cheaper option that's younger, that's not going to have all the negative baggage attached to him.
Exactly. I just think it seems like it's way too much work.
So good luck in your new career, Chad. Whatever.
Well, he did mention a porn star. I mean, before he even took when he was taking the Dolphins job.
That wouldn't shock me either.
No.
Yeah, he did mention that in the press conference. Sayonara, Chad Johnson. That's going to wrap up another episode of The Better Half for Kendra D. St. Aubin. I'm Vince Marotta. You can follow her on Twitter at Kendra620 and me at Vince Marotta. You can probably see those down at the bottom of the screen as we speak. From Cardinals Camp, we'll see you next time here on The Better Half.